Welcome to Chapter 4 of Digital Communication, Bandpass Modulation and Demodulation. Module 4 includes Binary Frequency Shift Keying, BFSK. Definition of BFSK is: if frequency of the carrier is varying with respect to the input bits 1 and 0, modulation is called BFSK. BFSK is also known as 2-array FSK because there are only two symbols, 0 and 1. Normally the carrier frequency is F0. Here the carrier frequency should be changed with respect to the input bit 1 and 0. So from carrier frequency F0, there are two changes. One is F0 plus delta F and other will be F0 minus delta F. F0 plus delta F can be considered as high frequency FH. F0 minus delta F is going to be considered as low frequency FL. So there are two frequencies used in BFSK, high frequency and low frequency. Here we are assuming that high frequency is used for representing 1 and low frequency is used for representing 0. So the requirement is like this: whenever the input bit is 1, the output should be high frequency. If input bit is 0, output should be low frequency. According to the requirement, the equation is written here: V BFSK T is equal to BHT root 2 PS cos omega HT plus BLT root 2 PS cos omega LT. And our requirement is like this: if the input bit is 1, we want to get root 2 PS cos omega HT at the output side. If the input bit is 0, we need root 2 PS cos omega LT at the output side. According to the requirement, the voltages are defined here. If input bit is 1, BHT is equal to 1 volt and BLT is equal to 0 volt. So 1 into high frequency plus 0 into low frequency, only high frequency will be the output. And for the input bit 0, BHT is 0 and BLT is 1. So we are going to get only low frequency during that bit interval. So the output will be high frequency or low frequency, depends upon the input bit is 1 or 0. So I just explain again according to this block diagram. B of T is NRZ unipolar format with amplitudes 1 volt and 0 volt. For 1 it is 1 volt and for 0 it is 0 volt. Suppose the input bits are 1 and 0. That 1 is multiplied with the root 2 PS cos omega HT, will get root 2 PS cos omega HT, and 0 is multiplied with the root 2 PS cos omega HT. The product will be 0. So for 1 0, here we will get high and no output. At the same time, due to this inverter, that 1 0 will become 0 1 here. So 0 multiplied by root 2 PS cos omega LT, for the first interval the output will be 0. For the second bit interval, 1 multiplied by root 2 PS cos omega LT, output will be low frequency. But during that time, here the output was 0. So that is why finally the output will be high and low. High for the first bit interval and low for the second bit interval. There is some relation is also written finally. F0 is equal to FH plus FL by 2 and delta F, that is frequency shift, is equal to FH minus FL by 2. Here I am showing two different waveforms, that is orthogonal BFSK waveform and non-orthogonal BFSK waveform. First I'll define what is the meaning of orthogonal BFSK. If FL and FH are integer multiples of FB, BFSK is orthogonal. If that condition is not satisfied, it is non-orthogonal BFSK. Here the condition is satisfied. FL and FH are integer multiples, 1 into FB and 2 into FB. But here FL is 1.25 FB, is not an integer multiples of FB. So this is non-orthogonal and this one is orthogonal. Two orthogonal frequencies are multiplied and integrated over one bit interval. The answer will be 0. That's a condition of orthogonality. So here high frequency is multiplied to 1, so we are getting high frequency. and when the input bit is 0, that is multiplied by 0, the product will be 0, and high frequency multiplied by 1, output will be high frequency. But these inverted signals are going to be multiplied with the low frequency. So 0 into low frequency, product will be 0. 1 into low frequency, product will be low frequency. 0 into low frequency, the product will be 0. So these are the output of two multipliers. Now these two are added, we are getting BFSK output without any discontinuity. Signal looks like a sine wave. Without any discontinuity, signal can be generated if the modulation is orthogonal. Here 1 is multiplied by high frequency, we are getting high frequency. Here 0 multiplied by high frequency, product is equal to 0. 1 multiplied by high frequency, product will be high frequency. And inverted signals are multiplied with the low frequency. That is why during only the second bit interval we are getting the low frequency. But due to 1.25 cycles for the second bit interval, that low frequency is starting from 0. It looks like this. And when these two signals are going to be added, we can see there is a discontinuity here as well as here. This signal is ending at positive peak, but the low frequency is starting from 0. So there is a sudden change in time domain. Here the signal is ending with a negative peak, but the high frequency is starting from positive peak. There is a sudden transition from negative peak to positive peak. This type of sudden transitions are generating high frequencies. These high frequencies can interfere another communication channel that is known as inter-channel interference, that is ICI. Then how to suppress ICI? So use filter to remove all that high frequency generated. That means we are suppressing the signal in frequency domain. Due to that suppression, the signals are overlapped in time domain because expansion taking place in time domain. And that is creating another interference that is known as ISI, inter-symbol interference. So in terms of ICI and ISI, orthogonal FSK is the best. Because in non-orthogonal FSK, PSK and in ASK, we are getting a signal with discontinuity. So if the signals can be generated without discontinuity, then only we are able to say these two distortions are less. That is a case of orthogonal FSK. So these points are written here. If FL and FH are integer multiples of FB, there is no discontinuity in modulated signal, and FSK is called orthogonal FSK, otherwise non-orthogonal FSK. So orthogonal FSK is better in terms of ICI and ISI distortions. Coherent receiver. Meaning of coherent receiver is these two carrier should be regenerated from the received signal, and there should be a synchronization between received signal and this carrier. And that is why coherent receiver is also known as synchronized carrier. There will be a phase correlation and frequency correlation between these two. For getting that result, we can use a band pass filter with a center frequency high and PLL with an oscillator that is generating high frequencies. So using this PLL and band pass filters, this carrier can be regenerated from the received signal. Here using another band pass filter and PLL, low frequency can be regenerated from the received signal. So due to this regeneration, this cos omega HT and cos omega LT are always synchronized with respect to the input signal. That is why the receiver is coherent receiver or synchronous receiver. What is the advantage we are getting from coherent receiver? Probability of error is minimum. So for getting minimum probability of error, we should go for an optimum receiver. So coherent receiver is an optimum receiver. In terms of probability of error, this is the best receiver system. At the input side, we may receive high frequency or low frequency. So I am writing that two different cases. Case 1, input signal is √2 ps cos omega ht. So that's an indication, okay, actually we are receiving logic 1 signal. So this √2 ps cos omega ht multiplied by cos omega ht, product will be √2 ps cos square omega ht, and integration result will be √2 ps into tb by 2, and that is a positive constant k. So whenever we are receiving a high frequency here we will get k. But at the same time, there is a second multiplication and integration. High frequency multiplied by low frequency. Just assume that these two frequencies are orthogonal. So product integration result will be 0. So here k and 0. If it is not orthogonal, we will get some amplitude, but that amplitude is always less than k. If the signals are same, then only the amplitude will be maximum. That is a correlationship between two signals. Correlation will be maximum if both signals are same. So here maximum you will get if the received signal is cos omega h, this is also cos omega h. And here minimum you will get if it is cos omega h and cos omega L. For the next case, the input signal is cos omega L multiplied by cos omega h, product integration result will be 0. But cos omega L into cos omega L, product integration result will be k. So that is why the comparator decision rule will be like this. If S1 of TV greater than S2 of TV, output will be 1, otherwise output will be 0. So the possibilities are like this. Here k and here 0, or here you will get k and here it will be 0. So based on this, the decision can be made. Whenever S1 of TV is greater than S2 of TV, the frequency we received was high frequency, and based on that high frequency, output decision is 1. And whenever S2 of TV is greater than S1 of TV, the received frequency was low, so the output decision should be 0. So comparator algorithm is also written according to this. Next one is a non-coherent receiver. For a non-coherent receiver, there is no carrier regeneration, there is no carrier multiplication. That is why it is less complex system. But the disadvantage is we cannot expect the same probability of error like the previous one. Probability of error is more compared to the previous one, because we are not going to get the same signal to noise ratio from non-coherent reception. Probability of error is inversely proportional to signal to noise ratio. More signal to noise ratio, less probability of error. Maximum signal to noise ratio we will get from coherent receiver. That is why it was known as optimum receiver. Here input signal consists of high frequency and low frequency. There are two filters used. One is a high frequency filter, second is a low frequency filter. Center frequency FH, center frequency FL. So it will pass high frequency, this filter will pass low frequency. That is why during the first TB second, high frequency here, during second TB second, no output. This is passing only low frequency, so during first TB, no output. During second TB, there is a low frequency. Next block is envelope detector. Envelope detector consists of a full wave rectifier and low pass filter. So if it is passing through a full wave rectifier, we will get just positive voltage like this, and that positive voltage is passing through a low pass filter, we will get a shape like this. Similarly, the second envelope detector is going to generate an output like this. So these two can compare at every TB second. First TB second, S1 of TB is greater than S2 of TB, output will be 1. Second TB second, S2 of T is greater than S1 of T, output will be 0. So that decision rule is like the previous decision rule. Here I just compare the performance of coherent and non-coherent receiver. Coherent receiver is also known as synchronous receiver. Probability of error is minimum and complexity is maximum. Basically, the complexity is due to achieving synchronization between received carrier and the local carrier we are going to use for multiplication at the receiving side. For a non-coherent receiver, probability of error is more, that's a disadvantage, but complexity is less, that's an advantage. So if the performance is not a main criteria, go for non-coherent receiver, but the performance, that is probability of error, is the main criteria, then go for a coherent reception. Power spectral density, power spectrum, bandwidth and spectral efficiency. First I have written BFSK expression, BHT root 2 PS cos omega HT plus BLT root 2 PS cos omega LT. PST of BHT is equal to PST of BLT, because BH and BL are unipolar format with amplitude 1 and 0, and the PST of that format is written here, TB by 4 sinc square FTB plus 1 by 4 delta F. Then PST of root 2 PS cos omega HT, that is written PS by 2 delta F minus FH plus delta F plus FH. Next PST of root 2 PS cos omega LT is written here, PS by 2 delta F minus FL plus delta F plus FL. Now in time domain, signals are multiplied. Due to that reason, convolution between this signal and this signal for the first part, convolution between this and second signal for the second part. So before convolution, we can do the multiplication of this constant TB by 4 into PS by 2, that is PS TB by 8. Sinc square FTB, convolution delta F minus FH. Answer is sinc square F minus FH into TB. Sinc square F minus FH into TB. Plus between these two, sinc square F plus FH into TB. Plus now between sinc square and delta F minus FL, that is sinc square F minus FL into TB. Plus now between these two, sinc square F plus FL into TB. So that sinc square convolution is over. Now delta F convolution, 1 by 4 into PS by 2, that is PS by 8. Any function convolving with delta F, answer remains same. So between these two, answer is delta F minus FH. Between these two, delta F plus FH. Between these two, delta F minus FL. Between these two, delta F plus FL. So that's the final answer of PST of BFSK. That is writing GBFSKF. PST is in frequency domain. That is a variable is written F. There are 4 sinc square function. That is a 4 function I am showing here. For getting the center point, substitute this is equal to 0. F minus FH into TB is equal to 0. So F minus FH is equal to 0. So F is equal to FH. That is this point. Next substitution, F plus FH into TB is equal to 0. That will give F plus FH is 0. Then F is equal to minus FH. That is this point. Third one, F minus FL into TB is equal to 0. Then F minus FL is 0. So F is equal to FL. That is this point. And from the fourth one, we will get minus FL. So these are the center point of main lobe. Then for getting the right hand side point, substitute F minus FH into TB is equal to 1. Then F minus FH is equal to 1 by TB and F is equal to FH plus FB. 1 by TB is FB. FH plus FB. That is why FH plus FB. So this width is FB. So that is why everywhere you take the same width. FB, FB like this. And the peak value of this going to be calculated like this. When F is equal to FH, sinc square FH minus FH, that is sinc square 0. Sinc square 0 is 1. 1 into PSTB by 8. That is a PSTB by 8 is the peak value. Then there is an addition of impulse function at F is equal to FH, PS by 8. That is why above this there is an impulse function with a strength PS by 8. Now we should be able to find out the bandwidth. Bandwidth is a width of main lobe, only positive side, and from this point to this point, that is the width of 2 main lobes. That is FL minus FB to FH plus FB. So the total width is equal to 4 FB hertz, provided there is no gap between these 2 main lobes. So if you want to avoid the gap, FH minus FL has to be 2 FB hertz. If FH minus FL is greater than 2 FB, there will be a gap between 2 main lobes, bandwidth requirement will be more. If FH minus FL is less than 2 FB, there is an overlap between 2 main lobes, bandwidth will be less, but there is an overlap between 2 main lobes. So the bandwidth is 4 FB. Surely we can see that is one disadvantage of FSK compared to ASK and PSK. Bandwidth of FSK is 4 FB hertz, spectral efficiency is 0.25 bits per second per hertz. But previously we got for BPSK and BASK, bandwidth was only 2 FB hertz and spectral efficiency was 0.5 bits per second per hertz. So in terms of spectral efficiency, ASK and PSK is better than FSK modulation. Because in ASK and PSK, we used only one carrier frequency. But here we are using 2 carrier frequencies. It's a multi-carrier modulation. Previous one was a single carrier modulation. For a single carrier modulation, bandwidth is always minimum. For multi-carrier modulation, bandwidth requirement is always more. But there are some other advantages also. So like a carrier fading. If one carrier is going to fade, still we are able to get 50% information. But that is not the case of ASK or PSK. That is 100% information is going to lose. That is not going to happen in a multi-carrier modulation. So in that type of environment, multi-carrier modulation is always better than single carrier modulation, that is carrier fading, frequency fading, that type of interferences. Probability of error, Euclidean distance and signal space diagram. What signal space diagram I am showing here is for orthogonal BFSK. First I am writing BFSK signal, that is root 2 PS cos omega HT and root 2 PS cos omega LT. And the orthonormal reference vectors are, so we have already studied how to get that normalized signal. Just take the amplitude root 2 by TS, that's all. So root 2 by TS cos omega IT. So there are two normalized reference signal. Both signals are orthogonal signal. That is why the word used here, orthonormal. That is normalized orthogonal signal. One is root 2 by Ts cos omega Lt and other will be root 2 by Ts cos omega Ht. Due to orthogonal vectors, that should be represented as a perpendicular axis like this. One is RH of t, second is RL of t, perpendicular to each other. For a PSK, it was opposite to each other. And the reason for that was there is a phase difference of 180 degree. Here these two are orthogonal, that is why 90 degree between these two vectors. Now each modulated signal should be represented in terms of reference vectors, that is root PSTS into root 2 by TS cos omega IT. After cancellation of TS and TS, the same expression we are getting, but the modulated signal is represented in terms of normalized reference vectors, that is root PSTS into Ri of t. So one will be root PSTS into RH of t. So from origin, take a distance of root PSTS, get the first point. This is a signal point for 1 and this is a signal point for 0. The distance between these two signal points is known as Euclidean distance, and that Euclidean distance is root 2 PSTS. 90 degree, 45 degree, 45 degree. So if this is 1, this is 1, this will be root 2 times. So that is, it's a root 2 PSTS. So that's a Euclidean distance. This I am writing here. dBFSK is equal to root 2 PSTS, and for a binary system, TS and TBs are same. So root 2 PSTB, and power into time is equal to energy. So root 2 EB. So probability of error is equal to half complementary error function square root of distance square d square upon 4 eta. So substitute this d value here, half complementary error function square root of EB by 2 eta. This result also can be written in terms of Q function, that is Q of root EB by eta. Here I am comparing the performances of PSK, ASK and FSK in terms of Euclidean distance and probability of error. For PSK, Euclidean distance was 2 into root EB. If Euclidean distance is more, probability of error is less, so that is more power efficient. BASK, Euclidean distance is root 2 EB. BFSK, Euclidean distance is root 2 EB. So when you are comparing these three, which is the most power efficient modulation? PSK is the most power efficient modulation. The reason is, for a BPSK, Euclidean distance is maximum when you are comparing with the BASK and BFSK. But later, when you are going for a 4 array FSK, 8 array FSK, 16 array FSK, etc., if you are going for like a M array FSK, Euclidean distance will be more than PSK Euclidean distance and ASK Euclidean distance. In that case, FSK is more power efficient modulation. That is why FSK is considered as most power efficient modulation, but not for BFSK. It should be 8 array FSK onwards. 8 array FSK onwards, the Euclidean distance of FSK is always more than PSK and ASK. But here we are comparing only the binary system, and when you are comparing binary system, BPSK is the best. Thank you.